Have you ever noticed how the foods we once thought of as nourishing can quietly turn against us as we grow older? I've seen it time and again in my patients. Someone makes all the healthy choices, adds more fruits, maybe an extra serving of greens, and yet their blood work comes back with rising creatinine, a warning sign that the kidneys are struggling. It's a frightening thought, isn't it? That what we believe is helping us might in fact be silently stealing our strength. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Vital Science for Seniors. Here we explore the truths that often get overlooked, truths that can mean the difference between independence and dependence, between energy and exhaustion. Today I'll guide you through 6 surprising foods that can damage your kidneys after 50. Foods that seem harmless, even wholesome, but carry hidden dangers. Let's uncover them together. When Margaret, a 67-year-old retired teacher, first came to see me, she carried a little plastic container of raisins in her purse. She said they gave her quick energy when she felt a slump in the afternoon. "They're healthy, right?" she asked with a hopeful smile. The truth is, raisins and their cousins, dates, figs, apricots, do come from fruit, but when they're dried, they become something very different. Imagine squeezing all the juice out of a fresh grape and leaving behind a chewy little sugar bomb. That's what a raisin is. It might fit in the palm of your hand, but inside it holds the sugar of several grapes all at once. For aging kidneys, this is like asking an old water filter to suddenly handle a flood. It strains, it sputters, and over time it clogs. Science gives us a clear picture. A study published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that consistently high blood sugar levels damage the delicate blood vessels inside the kidneys. Think of those vessels as tiny sieves, meant to catch waste and let clean blood pass through. Sugar acts like grit and sludge, scraping and inflaming the mesh until it can't filter properly. That's how high creatinine creeps up on lab reports. It's the residue of a filter no longer doing its job efficiently. And it's not just sugar. Dried fruits pack in potassium too. Potassium is essential for our heartbeat and our muscles. But when kidneys weaken with age, they can't always keep up with filtering the excess. Too much potassium in the bloodstream is like overcharging a battery. Instead of giving steady power, it sparks irregularly, causing dangerous heart rhythms. I've seen this in the ER. Patients dizzy, their hearts racing, all because the body couldn't clear the overload. Now, bananas often join the same story. Soft, sweet, convenient. Bananas feel like the poster child of healthy snacking. But one medium banana contains about 400 milligrams of potassium. For a healthy 20-year-old, that's fine. For someone over 50 with even mildly reduced kidney function, it can tip the balance. Margaret once told me she'd eat a banana every morning with her cereal and a handful of raisins as a snack. Her potassium levels in blood work were dangerously high. She never knew her healthy habits were adding strain to her kidneys day after day. So what's the path forward? It isn't about giving up sweetness entirely. Instead, it's about choosing wisely. Fresh fruits with lower potassium, like crisp apples, juicy berries, and grapes, offer the delight of natural sugar without overwhelming the kidneys. I often tell my patients, choose foods that refresh, not foods that burden. An apple a day doesn't just keep the doctor away, it gives your kidneys a chance to breathe. The truth is, food can either be a quiet villain or a gentle ally. Once Margaret switched her dried fruit for fresh apple slices and swapped her bananas for blueberries, her lab results began to shift. Her creatinine stabilized, her energy improved, and most importantly, she felt in control again. That's the power of awareness. Sweetness can still be part of your life after 50, but it needs to come from the right sources. When we think of leafy greens, spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens, we often imagine vitality, salads brimming with life, or the classic advice to eat your vegetables. And yes, for much of our lives, these greens serve us well. But after 50, the story shifts. I remember James, a 72-year-old retired carpenter, who came to me puzzled. He had followed his doctor's advice for years. More spinach smoothies, more kale in his meals. Yet he was plagued by kidney stones so painful they brought him to tears. He couldn't understand why his superfoods seemed to betray him. The culprit? Oxalates. These are natural compounds found in certain greens that bind tightly with calcium inside the body, forming hard crystals, the kidney stones James had suffered from. Imagine sand gathering inside a water pipe. Slowly, the grit turns into rock, blocking the flow. There's also the issue of potassium. Spinach and chard are particularly rich in it. For younger, healthy kidneys, this is no problem. But aging kidneys resemble a strainer with fewer holes. Slower, less efficient. Excess potassium builds up like water rising in a sink, leading to dangerous conditions such as hyperkalemia. I've seen patients faint, develop chest pains, or land in the hospital because their kidneys simply couldn't process the volume of potassium from what seemed like healthy greens. Dairy products tell a similar tale. Milk, cheese, yogurt, foods we associate with strong bones and healthy childhoods. But as the years advance, kidneys often falter at managing phosphorus, a mineral abundant in dairy. Too much phosphorus in the bloodstream pulls calcium out of the bones, leaving them brittle and deposits it in places it doesn't belong, like arteries and heart tissue. Imagine cement being poured where it shouldn't be, stiffening vessels that are meant to stay flexible. This isn't just theory. A study in Kidney International showed how high phosphorus diets accelerate kidney decline in older adults. It's a silent burden, often overlooked. Protein in dairy can add another challenge. While protein is vital for muscle maintenance, especially as we age, too much from animal sources forces the kidneys to work harder to clear out nitrogen waste. It's like asking a tired worker to carry heavier and heavier loads each day. Eventually, exhaustion sets in. I once treated Linda, a 65-year-old grandmother, whose morning routine was a large glass of milk and cheese with every lunch. Her kidney function tests showed steady decline. When we replaced her dairy with almond milk and yogurt alternatives made from oats, her numbers stabilized. She still enjoyed creamy textures, but without overwhelming her kidneys. And let's not forget saturated fats in full-fat dairy. They raise blood pressure, which is one of the most potent enemies of kidney health. High blood pressure is like a relentless tide eroding the shoreline. Bit by bit, it wears away the fragile vessels inside the kidneys until filtration becomes impossible. By reducing full-fat dairy and choosing lighter, plant-based substitutes, you give your kidneys room to recover. The lesson here isn't to fear greens or dairy, but to approach them with respect and balance. For James, we shifted his spinach habit to romaine lettuce and cucumber, both lower in oxalates and potassium. For Linda, oat milk lattes became her new morning ritual. They both discovered that protecting kidney health didn't mean deprivation. It meant smarter swaps. The body over 50 still thrives when nourished with care. It just asks us to listen more closely and choose with wisdom. When Thomas, a 74-year-old veteran, sat in my office, he told me with pride that he still cooked for himself every evening. But as he described his meals, hot dogs, canned chili, bacon for breakfast, I began to see the invisible thread tying his fatigue and swelling ankles to what was on his plate. Processed meats and canned foods may feel convenient, even comforting, but to an aging kidney, they are like poison delivered in slow drips. Let's begin with the salt. Sodium is the magician that makes cheap food taste good and last longer on the shelf, but it comes with a cruel trick. High sodium pulls water into the bloodstream, raising blood pressure. Imagine a garden hose with water turned up too high. The pressure begins to erode the lining, strain the walls, and eventually the hose weakens. That's exactly what happens to the delicate vessels in your kidneys. Over time, the strain scars them, reducing their ability to filter. High blood pressure is the second leading cause of kidney failure, and processed meats are one of its stealthiest drivers. But salt is not alone. Processed meats carry preservatives such as nitrates and nitrites. These chemicals give bacon its pink color and deli meat its longer life. Yet inside the body, they can form compounds that injure the kidneys and burden the liver. Think of it like a house already needing repair. You wouldn't dump more debris inside. For kidneys already fighting to keep creatinine levels in check, these additives are like pouring sand into a clogged filter. Protein also plays a role. While protein is crucial, excess amounts from processed sources force the kidneys to churn out more waste products than they can handle. It's like pushing an overworked engine to run at full speed with no brakes. The buildup of waste makes creatinine climb, a red flag in blood tests. I recall one gentleman, Henry, whose diet of sausage sandwiches left him with high creatinine levels that alarmed his primary doctor. When we swapped his deli meats for fresh turkey and beans cooked from scratch, his kidney numbers improved within months. Now think of canned foods. On the surface, a can of soup or vegetables looks harmless. But hidden within is a wall of sodium, sometimes half a day's allowance in one serving. And the lining of many cans contains bisphenol A, or BPA, a chemical shown to disrupt hormonal balance and stress organ systems, including the kidneys. Imagine trying to clean a delicate crystal vase with gritty soap that scratches it each time. Over years, that invisible damage adds up. Canned foods also often hide sugars and unhealthy fats, both of which drive weight gain and diabetes, two major villains against kidney health. Diabetes in particular is the leading cause of kidney failure, and the combination of sugar-laden canned sauces and sodium creates the perfect storm. What looks like a quick dinner is, in truth, a heavy burden your kidneys must carry long after the meal ends. But there is hope. For Thomas, the veteran who loved his hot dogs and canned chili, we worked on small shifts. Fresh chicken breast replaced his sausages. He discovered the joy of slow cooking beans and freezing them in small portions instead of relying on salty canned varieties. He told me later that cooking became not just about feeding himself, but about protecting the independence he valued so deeply. His ankles stopped swelling, his blood pressure eased, and his lab reports reflected kidneys breathing a little easier. The message is simple. Processed and packaged foods promise convenience, but at the cost of health. By choosing fresh meats, rinsing low-sodium canned goods, or even better, replacing them with fresh vegetables and fruits, you give your kidneys the relief they deserve. And the gift in return is more energy, steadier blood pressure, and the possibility of many more years of living on your own terms. If there's one truth I've learned after decades of caring for older adults, it's that the body still listens. Even after 50, 60, 70 years, your kidneys, though quieter now, still respond with gratitude when you lighten their load. The foods we've explored, whether dried fruits, certain greens, dairy, processed meats, bananas, or canned goods, do not have to steal your vitality if you choose wisely. I want you to know this: you are not powerless. By reaching for fresh apples instead of raisins, crisp lettuce instead of spinach, or home-cooked beans instead of salty canned soup, you're not just making dietary swaps. You're making a declaration that your health and independence matter. It's never too late to protect kidney function, lower creatinine, and find joy in meals that heal rather than harm. You are capable, you are resilient, and your best days can still lie ahead.